EA Interviews, episode 42.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the imperfect action round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
Welcome, Expert Authority World. I have none other than Kimberley Maska here, and I can't wait to share her with you. Have you ever wanted to break through financially? Have you ever had that icky feeling when it comes to sales? Do you want to break free from the scarcity mindset of poverty? She's going to help you with this right after we thank our sponsor.
How would you like to grow your wealth easier than you think with the change you probably don't notice anyhow automatically? That's why I started the Compounding Interest Snowball Investing with Acorns and advise you do too. Get started simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns.
Here she is, everyone, Mrs. Kimberley Maska. How are you doing, Kimberley?
I am freaking fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm okay. What's going on with you?
Nothing.
So I want to ask you, what inspired you? Please get into detail because I know your story. I want everyone in Expert Authority World to know it too. What inspired you to start your company?
You know, it's an interesting story because it's actually quite a personal story. It's a little bit more than just, let's go create a company and change the world with our ideas and stuff. It was actually personal to the point where it had very much to do with my mom, who has transitioned. And it was kind of that moment of seeing her life and the all the stuff that she took with her. So she carried around a lot of baggage, and that baggage, in my kind of world and philosophy, that baggage turned into physical illness. And so the physical illness is actually what did her in. She transitioned from cancer. And with, I believe that she could have completely eradicated that process if she had just shifted her mindset. So everything I deal with is about mindset and being able to have our thoughts create our reality. And I can see how my mom didn't do that. And so when she transitions, and I started to really reflect on her whole life and how she got to where she, was, and the things that she carried with her, it became really clear to me that if people had a different perspective, a different insight of knowing that the past really means nothing at this point in time, and that we do create our reality with our thoughts, and being able to focus on our desires and have them manifest because we know we deserve them. If we had more people sharing that message and that information, and if I had known it earlier and shared it with her earlier, that maybe she could have saved herself. And so my inspiration for creating the company really comes from watching her story unfold before my eyes all those years, and seeing how that story could have had a different ending if she had had the right information. And so that inspired me to work with spiritual entrepreneurs and healers and all the light workers that are out there that are showing people how to shift their perspective, how to shift their reality, how to raise their vibration. And so it's my mission now to help 5,000 spiritual entrepreneurs create 5,000 businesses in 5 years, because I think our planet needs to be happier. A lot of people are stuck in the day-to-day, and they need to be in a better space so that they can create and they can be happy, and the world will just be a better place.
Well, I'm so glad you did, and I remember when you were starting your company, and I'm glad you touched on it, and I'm sorry to hear about your mom, but it sounds like you're getting a lot of the strength, despite the negative, you're turning it into a positive, and I think it's important to highlight that because you can also get trapped in that, and you didn't need to choose this path, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, it was, everything happens for a reason. And so when we see it and we can step back for a moment and see the bigger picture, then we know why we are where we are. So again, as everything happens, it should be, so it's okay.
So I want to ask you about who you help and how you help them, but if you could give a little bit more context, because there's something I want you to touch on, the story behind the story. Where did you come from to get here? Were you always in the spiritual realm?
No, I was in this place called Wall Street, which we know a lot of people hold a certain vibration around and a certain opinion, but I always say don't hold that part against me. But I've lived a very blessed life, and I've been able to create incredible things. And one of the things that I manifested and created was this really pretty awesome job in the Wall Street world. And actually my background is not so much finances as it is technology. And so being able to build and design systems and things was always something that came very easy to me. And that got me into the Wall Street world. And I worked for a major firm, and then 9 of us left, and we got, I don't know what possessed us. We created our own company, which was pretty awesome. And we were able to take it from sitting in a living room. We pulled together 15 million of our own money, and they got a couple investors involved, and we were able to take it to a $165 million company before the market turned. And that is a feat that I'm incredibly proud of. And it was such a learning experience, not only for creating a company, but just you get to reflect on who you are and see your own growth. And then you get a moment where you step back and you say, is this really where I belong? Is this really what I should be doing? And the answer for me was no. And so I ended up parting ways, which was quite interesting because you've really birthed this company. It's like a child, and you've created it with these partners. And at some point, though, I just knew that that wasn't my place anymore. And so after creating that and spending 8 years in New York in the Wall Street world, and like I said, it was amazing, and it gave me really the foundation that I needed for what I'm creating now. But yeah, I completely shifted. It was definitely that was spiritual would not be the word I would use for my time on Wall Street.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up and elaborated on it, because I think it's important to know, because some people think, oh, you may have lived out here your whole life, you may have been born that way, there was this, that, in the context of it, of where you were, not just, oh, I was in corporate America before. No, you were in a specific niche of corporate America that is vastly different, and I think it's so great you consciously decided to do what you do now, and I think that, personally, I take it as a bigger impact versus I just wanted to do something different. So thank you. So now I will ask you, who do you help and how do you help them?
Yeah, so I work with what I call spiritual entrepreneurs. Now the question is, what is a spiritual entrepreneur? And I remember when I first started this, someone asked me, they said, so does the guy that owns the donut shop that does yoga, is that a spiritual entrepreneur? I was like, oh no, that's not what I'm talking about. So for me, it's really about the light workers and the healers that have these incredible gifts that have been given to them by Source or God, whatever the name is you like to put to that entity that's everywhere. And so it's for that group of people that's really trying to shift consciousness. That's really the key, is the shifting of consciousness. So if we look around and we know that everything vibrates, even the stuff we're looking at, our computers or tables, everything's actually vibrating. It's not actually a solid thing. When we realize that, and we realize that we can consciously raise our own vibration to create a better life, it's a pretty incredible thing. So my clients, what they're doing is they're trying to help people shift consciousness, to raise their vibration about who they are, to help them find their joy and really find their connection to Source. Because that's what it's all about. Whatever that Source looks like for you, when we're in that harmony space, we're just happy and we're joyous. And that's why we're on this planet, is to be happy and joyous, not miserable and watching the news and complaining about things. That's not what it's about. So my clients are those that are there to help shift consciousness, however that looks. It can come up in all sorts of ways, but it's really about shifting consciousness so that we can really have a higher vibration planet.
I love it. So let's talk into your specific training and what you're taking people through.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is really getting them shifting into their new identity. Because this is the thing, as an entrepreneur, we always think like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to go out and we're going to hustle. We're going to really hustle and make it happen. So entrepreneurs have a certain mindset, but then you try and combine that entrepreneurship with a spiritual side, and that's where things seem to break down, because you've got the very left brain entrepreneurial side of things. Even though building a business is incredibly creative, people forget how creative you must be to create a business, but we associate it with the left brain. You've got to know the technology, you've got to watch your accounting stuff. There's that piece of it. And then you get the spiritual side, and there's a little clash. And so what I tried to do is show them how there doesn't need to be a clash, to show them how they can take on this new identity as a spiritual leader, truly, not even just an entrepreneur, but my goal is to help them become spiritual leaders so that they're out there having a major impact. So when they're working with me, they're getting ready to shift their identity. And it's all those things that happen to us internally when we're making that identity shift that have to be addressed. So my entire team is built of light workers. And so we help people on their spiritual path, because you're really leveling up at that point, is you're going from who you are to an entrepreneur to a spiritual leader. It's a whole different thing that happens. So we're making sure that they are ascending through their vibrational path smoothly. And in addition to that, and then showing them the left side, the left brain stuff that needs to be done, some of the tech stuff. And we make it as user-friendly as possible, because I know that technology and spiritual entrepreneurs are like oil and water. So we do take the time to be able to show them those things in the easiest, simple way, because it's really not that hard. I think it's just a fear that we get, and we have this resistance that pops up. And when the resistance pops up, it becomes an even bigger task than it needs to be. So we show them how to relax around it and see it as a tool, and see social media as a tool to be able to reach thousands and millions of people around the world. And when we can shift perspective about what they're creating, the left brain stuff seems a lot less scary. And then it's about moving them through the kind of like, identity ascension process to be a spiritual leader.
I love it. And I love the fact that you're not about, hashtag grind and, one of my favorite sayings is stop the glorification of busy.
Yes.
Like, what are you doing? Other than just killing your time.
Right. I actually had a client that before he enrolled, his question to me personally, he said, how many hours a week do you work? Because if I'm going to pick my mentor, I don't want someone who's working 90 hours a week, because that's not what I want to do. And having done that in the Wall Street world, I am very clear about taking my time on so that I have my own personal space. I am tech free on the weekends. And I always say that no one else's emergency is my emergency. And so I create that space where I really am in charge of my time. And it makes such a difference. So yeah, otherwise I think we lose our minds.
I think a lot of people have. I remember at a leadership conference, one of the people speaking, and I don't quote me, but I think it was the guy who runs Ritz-Carlton. And it was some big thing. And it was either that or one of the higher ups at Microsoft, or maybe it was Melinda Gates from the Global Leadership Summit a few years ago. Whoever it was, they were high level. They knew their stuff, and they said they don't ever go on a vacation for a week. They go for 2, because after a week, people go, oh, it's just a few more days and you're back. When they're gone for 2, they know we need to figure out a solution. And isn't it interesting? There's a lot less emergencies.
Yes, it's fascinating when that happens.
I want to ask you about, you've been speaking on transformation. What's the biggest transformation you've given to one of your clients that's gone through your training? Mm-hmm. They were in a spot, you helped them through it. Where did they end up on the other side when you were done with them?
Gosh, there's been so many. It's really the transformation, I think, of self-worth, because when you can give them the knowing that they're worthy to create abundance, that it's okay to do it with their spiritual gifts. In fact, that's how you should be creating your money. Because if you're not creating financial abundance with your gifts, I'm not sure what you're doing. That means you're working for somebody else. So you want to make sure that that's what you're using to create your money with. And so being able to give them that feeling of worth is really the key. And then a lot of times it's allowing them the freedom to be themselves too, because everyone's path is unique. So yes, there's certain things that work, but they have to have their freedom to create and not be too stuck in a box. And so probably one of my favorite transformations is actually, now she works for me now as one of my coaches. And she had 3 children under the age of 4 when she started in my boot camp, my spiritual biz boot camp. They were actually on food stamps, and we're trying to figure out what to do. Her husband was working, but they weren't making very much. They were really just truly scraping by. And she figured out a way. She got what I call resourceful. So I always say that when someone is full of source and tapping into source, that you can create whatever you desire. And so she became very resourceful, and she found a way to get into my program. And this shit was a year and change ago. This past year, she did $117,000 cash collected, and it's completely changed her life. And she actually works for me now on my team. So that's probably one of the coolest transformations that's come out of what I do.
From food stamps to 6 figures?
In a year and change. Yeah.
That's not too bad. I know a few people that might be interested in that program. Wow, that's fantastic. So let's talk about your program. How has creating a training course helped you?
It's incredible to see yourself grow with what you create. Because what I created 4 years ago is much different than what I created 2 years ago, which is so different than what I can create now. And I think what's been really fun, and I teach this to my clients, is to have the realization that when you're creating a business, it is a creative process, and you're never going to get it really wrong, but you're never going to really get it done either. So it's having the awareness that you're ever expanding and growing. So I go through the process of seeing, where are the clients? What feedback am I getting? How can I get them even better results every time? And then being able to see myself grow, which shows up in the course. So the way I look at it is that I'm imbuing my course with my vibration, and where I am in my journey shows up in my teaching. So when I'm teaching my clients, wherever I am is where I'm teaching from. And then when I go through kind of an ascension process through a vibrational shift, I have to relook at what of my core beliefs have changed. Like what's different about me now, and how can I teach differently? So every time I look at my course, it's like a new version of me. And in fact, right now I'm re-recording several videos for the course just because I know my team and I have up-leveled. So I have to make sure that the material and the content has the same vibration as the team. But it's pretty fun to watch because you get to watch yourself truly expand if you're paying attention to that.
I can totally relate to that. When I did my first book, when I did for my first training, even some audio stuff years ago, I look at it now, and truthfully, even before we started filming this episode, I saw something on Facebook, one of the memory deals, and I was like, holy smokes, this looks like it's from 100 years ago, and it wasn't, too long ago, but, when you shoot 3,000 plus videos, you're going to notice the differences, and it's embedded on film forever. So speaking of videos, how has using video in your business helped you?
It's such an amazing way to connect. I mean, it's incredible that we can sit and do this. We can be completely across the country from each other, use video, have a conversation. I mean, this is how I conduct my courses. So my clients are all over the world, and I'm able to use video to connect with them and see them. And it's amazing. I wonder what we did before. I mean, truly what I do now, I couldn't have done before. There wouldn't have been any way. Pre-social media, there's no way, because that's how I'm connecting with them. And that's how you're finding your tribe. And then being able to connect with them via video, on your courses so that they can be everywhere around the world. And we meet twice a week, and they come in with their questions, and I really get to know them. So video has been such a game changer. Plus, just doing any kind of Facebook Live, you get an idea and inspiration. You're able to share it with thousands and thousands of people in an instant. It's kind of mind-blowing, really, like what we can do with the fact that we can sit in our living room, in our PJs, and do an amazing video.
Yeah, it is pretty remarkable, and especially with technology and how it's advancing. I'm not going to date this with something that's going to be coming out, but I like the fact that 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it is, it's always advanced. And I remember having a dream to have a certain internet speed, and now it's like, wow, that's slow now. And all we're doing is bridging the gap for who we can reach around the world and how fast we can reach them. So I love it because it levels the playing field of, like you said, I mean, your transformational story. Someone's on food stamps, a year later, they're making six figures. Where else and what point in time could you have done that?
And how could I have met her? And how could she have met her clients? It really is incredible. And we have to give some gratitude for that. I think we start to take it for granted, the technology thing. We get annoyed when our phone is slow or internet isn't quite as fast as we want. It's like, goodness, this didn't even exist not that long ago. And so we have to have that moment of gratitude for it, because it does allow us to connect around the world.
It really does. And I remember when I was studying video production years ago, I'm sure as heck not going to date myself, but the technology, and even then I was grateful for it, because the stuff that cinematographers would do in the movie industry, you used to need millions of dollars to do it, and the cameras and all this stuff. And I remember sitting there in college learning, going, this is all just from a computer in a room. It happens to be at college, but I remember one of the first things I did is I picked up some clients and I persuaded one of them to invest in basically giving me thousands of dollars so I could build a custom computer with all the software and everything to do some of their commercials. And I remember thinking, there's nothing in this room at college that you couldn't put in your house. Now it's a friggin' laptop.
Yeah.
And this wasn't live streaming. This was broadcast and special effects and editing. But even then it was like, wow, what a giant leap forward. And now, I mean, you can broadcast stuff from your cell phone. You can do it from a laptop anywhere in the world. And it's, that's part of my reason for doing this, is to inspire people to go, no matter where you are in the world, you can start a business and you can be successful with it. And I appreciate you for sharing that story. I'm sure you've got dozens of them, but we're going to thank our sponsor and come back for the imperfect action round.
Invest automatically, save for later, and spend today. That's why I love Acorns. I used to think spare change didn't make a difference and saving and investing was an old-fashioned manual process. It's not. And it's a game changer. If you're not leveraging compounding interest in your business and life, automatically you're missing out. Acorns not only makes saving and investing easy and automatic, it makes it even more valuable by investing with diversified portfolios, spare change, extra cash, and rounding up everyday transactions. You can even set recurring monthly investments in the amount you desire. To make good great, there is also a debit card option that will continue to help you save and invest even further when you spend. Plus, no minimum balance and overdraft fees. Now, for the cherry on top. They have partnered with 250 plus companies and brands, and growing, with their Found Money program to invest back a percentage into your account with the everyday purchases when you shop. 2 of which you're probably listening to this right now through an Amazon or Apple device. Get started profiting from your everyday life and business simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/acorns.
All right, we're back for the imperfect action round. Kimberly, are you ready to take imperfect action?
Of course, I do it every day.
All right, so first question. What is the biggest problem you see your audience making and how can they fix it?
For my audience in particular, it's really just the fear of stepping out. They're afraid of what other people are going to say. So they start looking around. They do a lot of comparison energy. They say, oh, there's already people doing this. Why would I do that? And so that just keeps them from doing anything. And so exactly like you were talking about, imperfect action, they're not doing it. They're doing nothing when the world needs them. So if they can just realize that the reason why they've been given these gifts is because they are supposed to use them and step out and help people. When you can just do that and worry, or stop worrying, really, because all the worry doesn't do anybody any good. Just know that that's your purpose. That's why you were given those gifts. And that's what you should be using to create abundance in your life.
I love it. So the next path, you're going to love this one. What's the fastest path to the cash?
Fastest path to the cash is your mind. So I'm all about eradicating the poverty mindset, because that is what keeps us away from the money. It just is. Because I can see clients who come through who have gotten over the poverty mindset. He know that they deserve it. They're worth it, that it's their birthright to be abundant, and they create abundance immediately. And then I can teach the exact same steps to someone who is suffering from that poverty mindset, and takes them quite a bit longer. So it's all in our mind.
I love it. So one more question about the money. Customer lifetime value. What's the best way, in your opinion, to maximize it in a business?
Service. It's all about service. When you can serve and transform someone, they will never leave. I mean, I have people that are like, I am never leaving what you're doing. And so a lot of times they end up working for me because they don't want to leave the energy of what I've created and how we're serving. So when you serve, they're with you for life.
That is a good problem to have. You know, you could also do a course on recruiting and staffing.
I could, because my team is amazing. I mean, I am so blessed with the people on my team. And people ask me, they're like, well, where did you find them? What did you do? And I have to be honest, I just attracted them. I have an idea of who I want on the team, and they just show up. So that would be my course, would be like, just get into vibrational alignment and they really will just come to you.
So let's talk about books. What is a book that has changed your business?
So I read a lot of Joseph Murphy, and it's his whole thing is about training your subconscious mind. And so being able to master your thoughts is what creates your reality, which creates the abundance, which is what creates the amazing life that you have waiting for you. So Joseph Murphy for me is amazing. And there's several of them. I actually just bought like a collection of his works, like no joke. It's like about a 4-inch thick book. And it's pretty impressive. So with following his influence and being able to master my thoughts is what helps me create the business. So it's not a business book, but it's a mastering of me. So when I master me, I master everything I create.
I love it, because even though it's not a business book, and if you noticed, I didn't say it has to be a business
Right.
book. I've actually been waiting for someone to not talk about business books. So
You're
thank
welcome.
you. You're the first one who, I wouldn't say bent the rules because I purposely designed it that way, but thank you for your time, Kimberly. It's been great having you. Why don't you share with everyone where they can find you and the website?
Sure. So they can find me at kimberleymaska.com. So all my who I am is up there, but I have a free gift that's a training that really is about the mindset shifts that a spiritual entrepreneur or really a spiritual entrepreneur who wants to have the business, the shifts that they need to go through to be able to create the 6-figure business. And so they can go to spiritualbizsuccess.com, and that's B-I-Z. So spiritual B-I-Z. Everything I do is spiritual biz. And so spiritualbizsuccess.com will give them the link there to be able to watch the free training and really absorb it. I have people that watch that training that come away saying they've got stickies all over their room with all the little tidbits that they picked up on how to shift their mindset so they can create their abundance.
Well, I'm so glad you're talking on it and sharing with us. Expert Authority World is grateful, and I'm so proud of you because this was very special for me, from talking to you before you started your business to seeing where you're at now. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being part of that energetic exchange that made it all happen.
Well, it's been great having you. I look forward to seeing you again, but great talking with you, Kimberly.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right, Expert Authority World, here we are with another great episode. Have a great night, and God bless. You're already successful. You've worked hard to get where you are. We both know it wasn't overnight and hasn't always been easy. No doubt you're the expert on your subject matter. But do your prospects in your marketplace think of you first as their go-to trusted advisor all the time? ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com is 100% free and reveals the 21 steps to determine if your prospects view you as the expert and authority of your marketplace, or if it's just all in your mind. Important required steps like, do you have a process in place for prospects to self-identify if they qualify for your time and expertise or not? Does your current offer have the 7 components of an irresistible offer required to make it a no-brainer for your prospects? Do you have a real-life paperback book showcasing you as the subject matter expert you can actually hand someone? Get your free checklist now at ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com. Once again, Expert Authority Checklist, to make sure you have the 21 steps covered. It better not be more, but don't leave those 1 or 2 things you may have missing go any longer. Visit ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com and make sure you're being seen as the expert and authority today. Once again, that's ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com. Get your copy now.
Spare change? How's that going to make a difference? I know that's what I thought before I started investing with Acorns. Throwing change in a jar is not very leverage and time consuming, but what about all the transactions you don't use cash for? Like majority? Acorns not only invest your spare change automatically with roundups, it also lets you add a preset amount to each transaction regardless. It's pretty inspiring to see how quickly and easily you can end up with a pile of cash instead of a pile of receipts. Get started simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/acorns.